Eating less and doing endless cardio can actually trigger your body to hoard stubborn belly fat. You are exhausted. You are miserable. You are wasting hours with little to show for it. I used to believe weight loss was just simple math. But what hidden biological switch is your discipline accidentally triggering? Educational content, not medical advice. In multiple studies, chronic stress is linked with higher central fat storage and metabolic disruption. You track every calorie and push through hours of cardio, yet that stubborn layer of visceral fat hasn't budged an inch. This is not merely math. Your body is actively running a survival mechanism that overrides your diet and locks down all available fuel. Asking why you are not losing belly fat in a calorie deficit is the wrong question entirely. The skinny fat phenomenon isn't always caused by overeating or a lack of discipline. It is often a nervous system trapped in a chronic, low-grade fight or flight response. Visceral fat tissue is densely packed with specialized cortisol receptors. Think of these receptors like high-gain antennas purely wired to pick up low-level stress. When chronic stress is detected, these antennas instruct your physiology to immediately hoard incoming energy around your vital organs. It is a brilliant survival tactic, and it tends to work flawlessly. But that's not the main effect yet. This biologically active tissue does not sit there passively. Visceral fat can behave like tissue, releasing inflammatory signals that circulate through your bloodstream when stressed. This localized inflammation triggers a systemic alarm, aggressively calling even more cortisol to the site. It becomes a self-sustaining factory. In plain terms, your belly fat is actively defending itself by manufacturing its own stress signals. Clinicians often observe that poor sleep and aggressive training can stall fat loss even with consistent calorie tracking. When visceral fat rings the systemic alarm, your liver initiates a process called gluconeogenesis. Your brain perceives an ongoing crisis, so it demands immediate and accessible energy to survive. To supply this demand, the liver begins stripping amino acids from your muscle tissue and converting them directly into glucose. You're not burning fat, you're burning you. That is the catch. You may be losing muscle mass. This flood of new blood sugar triggers a massive release of insulin, even if you haven't eaten a single carbohydrate. Insulin functions much like a one-way valve. When insulin stays elevated, energy can enter fat cells easily, but it leaves far more slowly. Practically, what you'll notice is your body burning its own structural foundation just to keep your fat cells permanently locked inside a secure vault. And this explains the strange part. You continue cutting calories, which only amplifies the starvation signal and increases cortisol production. The liver pumps out more sugar. The pancreas secretes more insulin. The one-way valve stays tightly shut. This is why you often feel exhausted, cold, and mentally fogged. Your body is rationing energy. To break this loop, you cannot just starve the system further. You have to convince your central nervous system that the environment is secure. Now we can map the mechanism. This requires the safety signal protocol. This is a framework for education, not a diagnosis. It is designed to lower the systemic alarm and manually open the insulin valve by relying on biological timing rather than intense restriction. We break it down into 5 precise interventions. If you feel wired at night and tired in the morning, your circadian rhythm is likely misaligned. Step 1. The circadian anchor. The protocol begins the moment you open your eyes. Your body relies on light exposure to set its daily rhythm, effectively telling your brain it is daytime and safe to function normally. You must expose your eyes to natural sunlight within 30 minutes of waking to set a healthy, sharp peak in morning cortisol. This early peak is crucial because a sharp rise in the morning often dictates a steep drop in the evening. You are concentrating your stress hormone when you actually need it for alertness. This is where the switch flips. The most common mistake is waking up in a dark room and immediately staring at a phone. That fragmented blue light can confuse the circadian clock. It creates a low, flat cortisol curve that bleeds late into the night. If you wake up hungry at 10 a.m., your breakfast is likely the trigger. Step 2. The insulin valve release. For your first meal of the day, prioritize high-quality protein and fiber while keeping dietary carbohydrates low. This prevents the initial spike in blood sugar and keeps insulin levels near baseline. Remember, insulin is the one-way valve blocking fat release. Keeping it low allows the physiology to access its stored energy. Now watch what changes next. When you consume heavy carbohydrates first thing in the morning, you trigger a sharp metabolic rebound. Blood sugar spikes. Insulin slams the valve shut. A few hours later, your blood sugar crashes. That crash is perceived by the brain as a miniature survival threat. This is why eating a standard breakfast of oats or toast often leads to fierce hunger by mid-morning. If your workouts leave you anxious and ravenous, your nervous system may be too stressed to release fat effectively. Step 3. Neurological cool-down. To shift towards stored fuel, you must engage in low-intensity, steady-state movement. Think of brisk walking or light cycling, where you can comfortably maintain a conversation without gasping for air. This specific intensity demands fat for fuel, but stays below the threshold that triggers a heavy stress response. If you run a calorie deficit and then perform high-intensity interval training every single day, you flood a stress system with even more stress. Your body often reacts by shutting down the fat-burning pathways to protect itself. In plain terms, some individuals training the hardest can hold on to belly fat because their body stays stressed. Their nervous system is simply too agitated to let the energy go. If you never go long enough without food to feel stable energy, your insulin may never drop low enough to unlock fat consistently. Step 4. The cellular recycling phase. Next, you must implement a structured fasting window, typically keeping your daily food intake within an 8 to 10 hour block. Fasting allows your insulin levels to drop to their minimum, eventually opening the locked vault of visceral fat. Once the vault is open, the body begins looking for alternative fuel. Keep that in mind. We'll use it in a minute. Before your body can burn fat, it must empty its circulating glycogen. Think of glycogen as your wallet, holding cash for immediate use, while fat cells are the locked vault. You have to empty the wallet before you bother cracking the vault. Extending the fasting window gives your physiology the required time to exhaust that cash reserve. Once the glycogen is depleted, a process called autophagy may initiate. Autophagy operates like a cellular recycling crew, breaking down damaged proteins and clearing out metabolic waste. Research suggests this recycling phase can be associated with lower systemic inflammation. Just avoid pushing the fast too long. Strict 24-hour fasts done multiple times a week can trigger a starvation response, raising cortisol levels again quickly. If you wake up unrested despite 8 hours in bed, your sleep mechanics may be keeping your stress response active. Step 5. The alignment anchor. The final step happens at night, focusing on sleep mechanics and physical load distribution. Visceral fat reduction is heavily dependent on achieving deep, restorative sleep to clear the metabolic stress accumulated during the day. If your spine is misaligned or your airway is partially obstructed by poor posture, your body registers micro-stresses all night long. To fix this, adjust your sleep posture. To ensure neutral spine alignment, use proper pillows to support the neck and knees. You physically remove mechanical tension from your joints so your nervous system can fully drop its guard. Assuming 8 hours in bed automatically equals 8 hours of recovery is a trap. If poor load distribution keeps you tossing and turning, your cortisol may stay elevated until the morning. Even with these 5 steps seamlessly in place, minor variables can disrupt the safety signal. Visceral fat is highly sensitive to subtle metabolic shifts. You must actively protect the protocol from 2 primary disruptors. The first trap is chronic electrolyte imbalance. When you lower insulin, your kidneys naturally excrete more sodium and water. If you do not replace these minerals, your body interprets the sudden loss of fluid volume as a physiological crisis, spiking adrenaline to compensate for dropping blood pressure. The fix is straightforward. Add sufficient sodium, potassium, and magnesium back into your hydration routine. Here's what most people miss. The second trap is the artificial sweetener illusion. While zero-calorie drinks do not contain actual sugar, research indicates that intense sweet taste can sometimes trigger a small cephalic phase insulin response in some individuals. The brain tastes sweetness, prepares for sugar, and mildly elevates insulin in anticipation. That slight elevation may sometimes close the one-way valve for some. Stick to water, black coffee, or plain tea during your dedicated fasting window. The science of losing visceral fat has rarely been about starving yourself into submission. It is about systematically turning off the biological survival alarms. People consistently fail to clear visceral fat because they treat it as a simple math problem. They assume cutting calories harder and pushing high-intensity workouts further will eventually force the tissue to surrender. Treating fat loss strictly as an arithmetic equation ignores the evolutionary survival mechanism running in the background. You cannot math your way out of biological lockdown. When the systemic alarm sounds, brute force often amplifies the starvation signal. It locks the vault tighter. It strips your muscle for fuel. The real target is the underlying stress response. This is why the safety signal protocol shifts the focus entirely away from intense restriction and toward biological communication. By sequentially anchoring your circadian rhythm, managing the morning insulin valve, and optimizing mechanical load during sleep, you systematically prove to your central nervous system that the environment is secure. In plain terms, you stop fighting your physiology and start guiding it. Here's the simple way to apply this. Do this. Anchor your circadian rhythm with morning sunlight within 30 minutes of waking. Prioritize a protein-heavy first meal to keep the insulin valve open. Use steady-state movement to shift towards stored fuel. Avoid this, breaking your fast with heavy carbohydrates that trigger a sharp metabolic rebound, punishing an already stressed nervous system with daily high-intensity interval training, ignoring your electrolyte balance during the fasting window. If you only remember one thing, visceral fat is a stress response problem, not just a storage problem, and you cannot heal a stress system by attacking it with more stress. If you want more breakdowns like this, stay with this channel. Which part of this framework are you currently missing? Comment protocol, and I will send you the 5-step checklist.